Chapter 4 Thossoth. Dangling before him at eye level was that accursed crystal hindering all psychic abilities. Clemo tugged at his arms and legs, realizing that he was no longer paralyzed. However, he did feel the physical restraints holding him in place. He could only move a few inches in any given direction. Beyond the faint glow of that crystal, only blackness lingered all about. "Jason!" Clemo called out. There was no response. Attempting to regain his bearings, he moved his head around to determine that he was in a lying position on a soft surface. "Where am I?" he asked himself. Under his head, he felt a soft object propping him in a comfortable place. Tugging on his restraints, he realized that everything, including the restraints, were comfortable. "What is this? What kind of hell forces me to relax?" Shh. Clemo noticed a shadow cast between himself and that crystal. He then felt a finger on his lips. "Who are you? What is going on?" That finger gently glided down his chin, then neck, slithering down his naked chest. "Where did my clothes and armor go?" He was entranced by the movement to the point of silence on his end. The remaining fingers on that hand crawled across his chest as an additional hand caressed him, then another hand, and another. Clemo lost count of the additional hands as ecstasy overtook him. Hands were all over his entire body, even between himself and the bed, as if they came from the bed itself. Clemo shook his head, realizing that he could not give in to this indulgence. "No!" Attempting to tug his hands and feet free proved futile, as if his resistance summoned additional hands. Several took gentle hold of his genitals, leaving no untouched skin on them. The teleporter continued to resist the temptation, refusing to give in to this. He struggled all the more, only to be met with even more hands that smothered him with their orgasmic touch. The man twisted so hard it caused the hands to follow him, tugging him back. The twisting and tugging caused the crystal to tumble to the floor, rolling away. Far away enough that Clemo was able to use his power. His eyes lit up, activating his enchanted eye once more. Psychic energy quickly coursed through his body, making the teleporter vanish. He reappeared 20 feet away and turned around to get a good look at his assailants. The hands were all connected to the bed itself, if bed was even what one would call this thing. The soft pillow was no pillow, nor was the bed a bed. The hands themselves, while feminine in appearance, were a grotesque sight all the same. The pillows were actually eyes that somehow smiled at his revelation. Clemo shook his head, trying to get the image out of his mind. This devil-bed thing wobbled his direction. He screamed in fright, terrified at the prospect of laying on that creature just a moment ago. The hands reached out only to take hold of empty air. Clemo teleported away. He cared not where he went. Any place but near that thing was sufficient. The teleport was strange, not like any he has ever experienced before. Clemo opened his eye to find himself laying down once again with the same crystal floating above him. The same hands started to touch him again. Turning his head back, he saw the massive eye looking right at him. He screamed, twisting his body, trying to escape. The hands were stronger this time as they tugged at him, preventing the same escape. While they physically felt good, he was frustrated at this predicament. Clemo twisted his arm around, stabbing his fist into that mess of eye. The lids closed down on his wrist, and a squealing sound was heard like no other he had ever heard. The hands instantly let go out of pain. Seizing the opportunity, Clemo jumped out of this monstrosity, trying to get away from that bed as fast as possible. Instinctively, he teleported. A mistake, to be sure. Opening his eyes, he found himself a third time on that bed. "No!" he shouted. Twisting his fist to punch that eye again, his hand was stopped by several hands catching his own. His face flushed with anger. Clemo thrashed harder this time, only to have even more hands emerge, taking hold of his body, clinging him to that horrid bed devil. Jason opened his eyes. He let out a sigh, not out of relief, but of agitation. So this is where I die, huh? Everything was black. Nothing could be seen except that power negation crystal just beyond his reach. Attempting to move his arms, he discovered to his surprise that he was not restrained. Jason took hold of that crystal and tossed it across the dark room. It was never heard. Strange. He commented on the silence of this place. He closed his eyes to concentrate on manifesting a power. The power didn't matter because he was unsuccessful. Damn! He cursed under his breath. Taking a step forward, he was overcome by a tingling sensation in his groin. Jason fell to his knees. What is this? It was too dark to see, but his hand felt himself to explore what the problem was. His penis was throbbing and fully erect. I shouldn't be surprised. An overwhelming lust took hold of him, demanding that he touch himself. Jason shook his head, refusing to give in. Thosoth, you will not conquer my will so easily. Jason stood up, taking another step forward, forced him down once more. This time the urge was twice as strong. He clasped his hands together tight, refusing to allow them to wander. While he rarely masturbated, Jason had nothing against the act in general. He knew that to give in to this would drain him, and needed every ounce of energy and willpower he could muster. Standing up, narrowing his eyes, Jason began chanting a mantra, something he had never done before. Anything would help to resist this sexual temptation. He readied himself for the next step while clinging his hands together. It would take a crowbar to separate his hands. As he stepped forward again, he anticipated the sexual urge to come over himself. He did not fall to his knees. While pushing himself forward, he kept his hands tight together. He focused solely on moving forward. He didn't notice his clasped hands slip down into his pants. Damn it! He screamed when he realized that he was masturbating without knowing it. His hands acted with minds of their own, never ceasing their movement. While performing the act, his mind started to bend. The psychic fell to the dark ground, helpless. Do we have a deal, Thosoth? Jarius Kane asked. The room was full of naked bodies, all caressing and touching one another in an eternal orgy with no release. The damned souls moaned, never feeling any real pleasure. Numbered in the hundreds, they surrounded a creature that was a mass of tentacles and eyeballs, all varying in size and shape. The smaller tentacles engaged in joining the surrounding orgy, while the larger ones swayed on occasion. Responding in a guttural voice that subtly echoed in the room, slightly louder than the moans, Thosoth spoke. You are always so focused on this whole Cretan revival. It paused. Jarius said nothing. You should join my orgy room. Thosoth laughed. It was the kind of laugh that caused the sexual participants to pause, cringing. Jarius made no sign of care. Thosoth finally sighed. You are no fun, father. Yes, we have a deal. You can have your precious hell box, and I will keep those two psychics. One of the larger tentacles from behind the bulk of the beast raised, wrapped around the fourth hell box. Jarius reached his hand out to grab it, only to have Thosoth pull back at the last second. Or, the devil god said, I could just keep this, take you three, and turn you into my sex slave like everything else here. Tentacles swiftly reached out from unknown places all around the massive orgy room, taking hold of Jarius. The wizard summoned his Godslayer sword. The blade appeared in the air, just in front of himself. Fool! Jarius shouted in confidence at the reliability of his weapon. I would have honored our deal. You die instead. Jarius chuckled a bit as his weapon floated in the air. With a bright flash, the sword fell to the ground. Jarius dropped his jaw in surprise. Nothing is powerful enough to do that. I am A booming voice from all around spoke. The ceiling was ripped open, then flew away by the force of a power that made Jarius shrink down, believing his death imminent. Garrix! Jarius could not move. The massive dragon's head became visible. The wizard avoided eye contact with the Fire Lord. A huff of fire exited his nostril as he stared down at the trapped wizard. The Fire Lord is the new Asmodeus. You could have joined him, Father, Thossoth said. You killed Asmodeus? Jarius asked. Garrix did not answer the question. His eyes flashed with his divine power. In front of the wizard, 2 large bubbles appeared. One revealed Jason uncontrollably masturbating, while the other showed Clemo stuck in that disgusting touchy-feely bed. Garrix remained smiling and silently gloating. Thossoth brought one of his countless eyes close to Jarius. You see, the voice came from nowhere. Garrix did not make a deal with me. His will is law now. He was gracious enough to allow me to retain my divinity. Seeing as how easily you 3 have been killed, killing devil princes, it made sense to allow me to keep it. All of your divinity? Jarius humorously asked. The eye narrowed with anger at Jarius. I have enough. Whatever scraps your master allows you to nibble on, I see. Garrix brought his massive claw close to Jarius, pointing at him. Such insolence. Take away his hands. Yes, Fire Lord, Thossoth said with glee. Tentacles tugged, ripping off the hands of Jarius with no difficulty. He screamed in pain. The hands fell to the ground, lifeless. On one of those hands was the ring that granted Jarius his warlock abilities, the ring that had the captured demon lord Pale Knight. That ring slipped off from the fall. It rolled away naturally across the room. Now to add a special little touch of mine. Magic surrounded the wizard, circling around him, rotating, getting closer to his genitals with each rotation. The magic took hold of him, causing the mortal wizard to be aroused. Thossoth dropped him onto the ground. Garrix retracted his massive claw, chuckling at the mortal's sexual torment. No way to pleasure yourself. Jarius groaned in frustration as he crawled across the room, with only his psychic powers remaining. Dagon, within his mind, shielded the handless wizard's thoughts. He saw where that ring fell. Jarius attempted to make his crawling look desperate and unintentional. Garrix vanished, satisfied that the mortals that opposed him were dealt with. Get that ring, Jarius thought to Dagon. It is taking everything I have just to shield your thoughts, Dagon responded. That ring is far more important. I can maze my thoughts. You worry about retrieving that without him noticing. Look at you, Thossoth spoke in a soft, mocking tone. Crawling, sexually frustrated, powerless, and helpless. Your hellboxes are mine. Your sword does nothing by the will of Garrix, and nobody is coming to save you. Jarius looked at the ring. He felt the stealthy psychic energy slowly reaching for it. The wizard continued with his ploy, crawling randomly with a look of desperation covering his face. Well, no sense in leaving you with no sexual stimulation, Thossoth said. Tentacles ripped off the wizard's robe. A lumbering body moved towards Jarius. This man had a massive erect penis aimed at the backside of the wizard. I need you to hurry up, Jarius screamed in his thoughts. If I go any faster, Thossoth will notice. You are going to have to just be raped. You are going to let our body get violated? If it is any consolation to you, I won't be feeling it. Besides, you had worse torture. Jarius cringed at the inevitability of his situation as tentacles spread his legs apart, giving the lumbering man plenty of room. His senses picked up the details of this grotesque thing coming to violate him. Their skin was a sickly yellow, peeled in scattered places over its flesh. His face was full of pockmarks, giving away a number of diseases. Around his neck was a rope marking, the kind caused by strangulation. This body was an actual body, not just a materialized one. This was once a man on the material plane that died from a hanging. Their eyes were empty, not of eyeballs, but of life, yet they breathed. They must be an animated corpse. Thossoth has solely to use as a sexual weapon for his own amusements. The corpse was bent over Jarius, ready to begin the humiliation of having the father of all demons brutally sodomized. Jarius felt that rough, almost scaly flesh rub against his own back. Bits of flesh rubbed off, crumbling to the ground. Thossoth has given this undead thing breath. It was actually breathing heavily on the back of his neck, allowing the thoughts to sink in deeper with the frustrating, trapped feeling. Their smell was a repulsive, awful stench, full of not only decay, but also of feces and foul sex acts. This was not the first time Thossoth has used this grotesque method to torture a soul. His eyes cringed in horrid anticipation. Dagon will not come to his rescue in time. With a singular deep thrust, Jarius let out a scream of pain. Gotta give Thossoth the satisfaction, he thought in his sub-thoughts. The monster immediately sped up, shaking the wizard's body back and forth. This creation of mine, orgasms on command, Thossoth snapped his fingers. Jarius felt his anus splitting and blood trickling, and the thing violating him, pumping him full of hot liquid that burned like acid. The rape did not relent in the least. Yes, and he only stops when I command it as well. His penis will not soften. The magic was quite simple. Thossoth laughed as he slithered a small tentacle around the wizard's neck. Hurry up! Jarius screamed to Dagon, feeling his ability to hide his intentions impossible to conceal any longer. Thossoth raised the wizard's chin as the rape continued. The large tentacles held his body down. An eye opened in front of Jarius. What's this now? Thossoth asked. The ring shot back to Jarius, floating in place where his hands were. Thossoth noticed the severed hands were not bleeding. Oh! The ring glowed, bursting with light, causing the tentacles to reel, letting go of the victimized Jarius. He fell to the ground in pain. Dagon, heal me now! His body was surrounded by psychic energy. When the light dimmed, Jarius stood. He was not fully healed, but his wounds were closed. Thossoth moved in to attack, to further torture this wizard, to remove him of his power once again. No! Jarius screamed. The wizard vanished by the power of his ring. Or maybe the psychic powers in his head. Either way, he was no longer here. The bed continued to molest Climo, touching him across his body with dozens of hands. His body wriggled around, still struggling to escape this fate. If I free you, are you going to kill me? If I free you, are you going to kill me? Climo narrowed his eyes, not surprised in the least by Jarius trying to make this offer. Yes, I will, he screamed out loud. The bed's eyes squinted, almost confused by the outburst, but the eyes rolled shortly after dismissing the words. Are you sure? If I leave, I won't be coming back. And if Sabin were going to save you, he would have done it already. You must die. I will kill you at every opportunity I get. Well, if you promise not to kill me yet, you can not only be free, but also have the opportunity to kill me later. Otherwise, you will just be stuck here for all eternity. If that happens, then who would kill me? Jason will kill you. Clemo, can we please stop having this circular argument? I give you one last chance to listen to reason. We can kill the devil, Thossoth together, you, me, and Jason. Then we can hash it out. Clemo shook his head, still fighting the bed. He sighed, knowing that he could not deny this wizard's logic yet again. Fine! Now free me! Hang on. I will. You have to be bound to your word with magic. Do you agree not to harm me until Thossoth is dead? Clemo's face was covered in anger. He knew he had no choice. Yes! He screamed. The bed grew bright red. An alien gurgling scream was heard coming from it as it disintegrated into dust. Clemo stood up. He refused to look Jarius in the eyes. Where is my weapon? Right here. Jarius stepped out of the darkness. The handless wizard had the ring floating before where one hand would be, and the sword floating where the other would be. Spectral glowing green hands flashed like lightning, appearing and disappearing in the blink of an eye. Where his hands should be shown holding the sword and wearing the ring. We need to get Jason. Where is he? Don't worry, I'm getting him now. Jason was lying on the floor, still furiously masturbating uncontrollably. His psychic energy was continuously draining in order to prevent himself from getting hurt. His body was constantly repairing itself. He could not focus on anything else. The astral projection of Jarius Kane appeared in front of Jason. Oh, am I glad I did not come here physically. Well, Jason, are you ready to stop jerking around? Jason sighed, already knowing he had no other option. Jarius opened his eyes. Clemo stood with his arms folded. Jason teleported in the room next to them. The superior psychic was frowning, shaking his head. The two psychics looked at each other, embarrassed by not only their sexual torture, but also at the knowledge that both of them had accepted the wizard's terms. Relax, you two, Jarius said coldly. After we kill Thossoth, you can go back to trying to kill me. Clemo and Jason shot each other a look without using any sort of telepathy. They expressed their thoughts perfectly. A sour, plain, doubtful look that essentially said, he is up to something. A man sat in a room surrounded by beautiful naked women. He was staring down, lethargic, refusing to look at the slender women, all dancing seductively with their breasts flopping this way and that. Some rubbed their flesh inches from his face, while others rubbed his back with their asses. His eyes were shut tight, trying to ignore the sexual torture. Jason, Clemo, and Jarius ran past this room. Clemo halted. Hang on, the teleporter said, as the tortured soul's familiarity caught his attention. I know you. Clemo walked in the room, ignoring the women. What is your name? The soul ignored Clemo's words, refusing to open his eyes. Clemo shook him by the shoulder with one hand while shooing the women away with his other. Hey now! I'm talking to you. Open your eyes. The man opened his eyes, looking straight at Clemo. What do you want, devil? Haven't you tortured me enough? His tone was without will. I am no devil. Why are you a damn soul? I know you, but can't place your identity to your face. The women closed in once again, dancing and taunting. Clemo sighed. A psychic wave caused a circle to form around himself and this soul. As the women crossed the line of the circle, they were teleported to the edge of the room, where they approached again and again. Ah, that's better. I know I should conserve my energy, but I want to know who you are. The soul raised its chin. I have not known any sort of reprieve for over 200 years. His tone was flat. My name was Orion Dragonsbane. I was king of Babylon. Clemo chuckled. Oh, you. Yes, I remember now. The soul opened his mouth to speak. Klimo held his hand up to silence him. Yes, you charged into battle and died in vain against his army of undead. Klimo pointed back to Jarius. The wizard stood in the archway with his arms crossed impatiently. I don't care. This is a waste of time. Klimo turned his head slightly to Jarius without taking his eyes off of the soul. I can't kill you, but I am not your slave. Jason chuckled. The superior psychic waved his hand uncaringly. Klimo returned his attention back to the former king. You were king of Babylon. We briefly met once. I actually saw you die. You really should not have panicked like you did and charged that army of undead like that. I mean, what were you even thinking? Klimo, I hate to agree with Jarius, but we really shouldn't linger like this, Jason said. Klimo held his hand up. Hang on now. I have actually wondered this for years. I really want to know what the hell you were thinking when you did that. Jarius narrowed his eyes, shaking his head. Jason shrugged. The tormented soul stared at Klimo, not knowing what to say. I died for more people. I died a martyr. Klimo made a contorted face, almost laughing. Is that what you've been telling yourself all these years? By Sabin, you really do belong in hell, though I had no idea you were such a sex fiend that you belonged in the fourth hell. But it would kind of be like splitting hairs to argue which damnation you deserve. The women never ceased their robotic seductive dance. They thoughtlessly walked towards the circle and were teleported away, only to do it again. Klimo snapped his fingers, ending the power, thus allowing them to continue to torment this damned soul. They left Orion alone to his eternity. They began to tell a telepathic conversation as they trekked through this sexual hell. What is the plan, Jarius? Jason asked. Oh, aren't you usually the one to defeat the major threat? You always get credit for it. Jason did defeat every demon lord, Klimo interjected. Jarius laughed out loud. This caught the attention of a nearby devil. He was obliterated by a psychic blast before he could warn any other. Be quiet, Jason thought. Klimo, I defeated most of them. Name one. Grotst. Name another. Ammon. What about Pazuzu? Alvaro Listo, Jason thought. What about Orcus? I can't take credit for that one. You Klimos did that along with Darren Overby's help. Demogorgon? He wasn't actually a demon lord, but a trap set by a Dagon. What about Dagon, then? Technically, Dagon interjected from inside of the mind of Jarius. I never actually died. What? Klimo's face was etched with surprise. He stumbled in his steps, almost falling. Jason caught him. When I was a god, I left Dagon in his body as a punishment. Jarius managed to get it to his body. Frankly, I am not surprised, Jason said. What about Loth? Surely Jason killed her. Nope, me again. In fact, that was how I became a god for a brief time. Klimo shook his head, trying to organize his thoughts. The teleporter gave up on the conversation. The ruler of this hell is a god. Remember that. Do not even think of his name. Even with his reduced divinity, he will know where we are if you do. Stealth is our only advantage. And friend right now. What are you worried about, Jarius? You've killed Loth in her own realm of darkness. She was far more powerful than this sex devil. Klimo noticed his annoyance. Well, Klimo, I had the Godslayer sword with me at the time. I no longer have that. I also had real hands at the time, too. Klimo noticed the neon green spectral hands where flesh once should be. He cringed at the sight of them. So what do we do? Every god can be killed. That sword wasn't called the Godslayer for nothing. Every god can be killed. Jarius repeated the thought. We just have to figure out what can kill this one. Their immortality is directly tied to what makes them a god. I have an idea on how we can find out. A thin, tall devil wore a cloth mask over the mouth portion of their face. Blood was dripping from behind that mask. Laying on a table just a few feet in front of a bound and gagged soul trapped in a corner of this room. The ropes dug into their temporary skin, granting them the sensation of pain. This devil had a feminine aspect to it as it crept forward, slithering its body. The closer it got to the soul, the lower it hunched. It waved a gloved hand at the soul, casting a spell. The soul's penis sat inside of a chastity device. Their trapped penis grew hard inside of that confined space. They let out a muffled sound in pain. The devil was at their feet. They slithered up their legs, stopping at the man's penis. While looking the man in the eyes, this devil slowly, with a gloved hand, removed the cloth mask, revealing their hideous mouth. That triangle-shaped orifice was open, revealing blood where saliva should be. A tongue covered in protruding needles flapped around. Waving their hand a second time, commanded the constricting device to fall off. Yet their penis remained unmoved as if still confined. The tongue wrapped around the soul's penis, sliding and slithering, all the while stabbing into it with the needles. They removed one of the gloved hands, revealing that their fingers were more akin to pus-covered diseased dicks rather than fingers. As they tortured this soul's front, the hand slipped down to forcibly probe from behind. "Now!" came the mental command of Jarius. Jason Klimo teleported into the room, grabbing this sex devil, then teleporting out. Jarius placed a finger over his mouth in a hushed fashion to the stationary soul. Hours passed. "What is taking so long?" the wizard demanded. "This is not the mind of a mortal. Probing their thoughts is completely different. Klimo, are you okay holding him?" "It's an anti-time field," Klimo responded. "I can hold it as long as you need." The sex devil was crouched with its vaginal mouth still open and tongue curled around a penis that was not there. The ungloved hand was held down as if still about to insert into their victim. The creature was unmoving. "I think I know what can kill the devil god of sex. I do not like what I am learning. Klimo, put this devil back where we found it." "You mean back to raping that guy? Are you sure?" "Yeah. He was a child rapist. It's fine." Klimo nodded his head. With the wave of his hand, the devil vanished. The soul was immediately alarmed at the return of the same devil, and it continued its tortures, completely unaware of any stopping. "I know what can kill him. I need you to do exactly as I say. If you don't, then we will fail." "What can kill him?" Jarius asked. Jason shook his head. "Not this time. You do what I say when I say it. We will use you as bait for starters." Jarius smiled. "You do know that you cannot kill me so long as that god lives. It is our little unbreakable deal." "Our pact said nothing about getting you really hurt," Klimo chuckled. The cold eyes of Jarius stared at the two psychics before him. His face was unreadable. The sex chamber of Thossoth was a rank place full of disgusting acts constantly taking place. Every soul here was forced against their will to participate in this humiliating debauchery. The homophobes were forced to engage with one another, while the rapists themselves were raped. Women that were appalled at the prospect of touching another woman during their mortal life were eternally face-planted into the slit of another woman that mirrored their own disgust. There were a few souls here that delighted in their eternity. These poor former mortals were sexually tortured or abused during their life, causing themselves to commit atrocities of a sexual nature before their mortal demise. While most victims of sexual misdeeds were too wounded to seek revenge, these particular ones became twisted from it, obsessed with causing as much sexual pain to those they deemed deserving it. One particular woman that escalated into sexual torture among men was herself victim of a terrible rape. She spent the remainder of her life seducing men into a private space where she could repeatedly rape the men using anything she could, especially things that could not, in ordinary circumstances, fit into a rectum. She was sooner or later caught and put to the gallows for her death. Here in the afterlife, she thrived doing that which set her apart from other women. Thosoth gave her a wide variety of tools at her disposal. While she had the body of a woman, her genitalia was that of a man. She had been granted power over herself in a fashion to make it as big or small as she desired. She could even go so far as to change the shape of it. For the homophobe racist souls, she on occasion changed the color of it merely for an added thrill. This woman was in the process of sodomizing yet another rapist. She wore a smile on her face as she delighted in blood trickling from their anus. The man's cries of pain were music to her ears. Thosoth and her had a very strange yet understanding relationship. She delighted in torturing the rapist, and Thosoth delighted in her delight. An eldritch blast struck Thosoth from his left side, pushing the mass of tentacles, causing it to lean to the right. Thosoth immediately regained himself. 1,000 eyes sprang out of the beast, all staring in the direction of that blast. Jarius stood there with his hand extended, palm open, preparing to fire another blast. His hand was retracted by a thin black line newly wrapped around his wrist. His other hand and feet were also being pulled back by identical lines. They moved too fast to even notice until after they were wrapped. Turning his head to look upon his assailant, Jarius saw the lines stretching back to a central location, meeting tied together at the base of a barbed wire shaft, dripping with a most unpleasant green liquid. Attached to this tool of pain and ultimate discomfort was the very same woman. She stood arms akimbo, laughing at the torture soon about to take place. Jarius moved his fingers in an intricate formation, attempting a spell. 10 new lines shot out, faster than his fingers could move. Each finger was wrapped in the same lines, holding them, thus preventing any arcane magic forming from somatic methods. Opening his mouth to attempt another spell verbally, the woman caused a thicker line to wrap across his mouth and head, wrapping around several times, gagging the wizard. She laughed even harder. "Oh, it won't be that easy for you, though I must say it was really creative of you to make new hands after God cut yours off." She pointed at her lines protruding from her crotch, then snapped her fingers. The lines dragged Jarius in closer to the tool of defilement. Thosoth moved his swarming mass of tentacles to Jarius. The god of debauchery assisted in the re-raping of one Jarius Kane. "I didn't think it would be half as fun doing this to you a second time. Seems I was wrong." "What's happening?" Clemo asked. Jason had his hand to his temple. "You don't want to know." The teleporter shook his head. "Yes, I do," he corrected. Jason sighed, removing his hand. "They have already begun. Jarius is in great pain, both physically and humiliatingly. He is having one of his servants do the deed again." Jason was careful not to say the name Thosoth. Clemo frowned. "That's bad. We need him to orgasm, I thought." "Yes, but I think he will." Jason placed his hand back on his temple, resuming the scrying power. "Yes, we do. The woman doing the deed is—" He was cut off. "A woman? How?" Clemo was shocked. "She has something, some kind of shape-shifting member. It can easily form a penis. I believe it is part of him. Even as a weaker god, he could become aware of his presence simply by invoking his name. That sex god will want to feel this one. Our little plan seems to be working. I can see his aura, and it is intensifying the more Jarius is violated. I don't know how much more he can take before they rape him to death. Would that honestly be a bad thing? Clemo asked. Jason shrugged. Stay ready. On my mark, you will have only a short moment to act. Before you go, let me see your sword fission. Clemo unsheathed fission in two forms. What is it, Jason? Fission asked. Be one sword for this, Jason said in a hurried voice. Neither Fission nor Clemo questioned Jason on this. The sword was quick to combine into a singular sword. The effect was quick, watching the two swords meld into one another. Jason placed his hand on the bladed portion. Psychic energy revolved around the top of his head. The same energy spiraled down his arm and through his hand, surrounding the sword, sweeping into the metal. Jason, what is this? Fission asked. A powerful attack, is all Jason said. He wasn't questioned. He closed his eyes, concentrating on something else now. He was quiet, lifting his hand from the sword with a single finger raised. Clemo, no matter what you see, you must focus on him, not Jarius. Now, go, now! Jarius tightened his grip on his weapon, newly empowered with a power he had total confidence in. He vanished, moving with his teleportation talent to battle a god. Jarius was bent over with his wrists and legs being spread by those black lines. The psychic power made those hands vanish the moment this violation started. His screams of agony echoed louder than every other tormented soul here in this chamber of violation. The lair of Thossoth, the only other sound that came close to the tortured screams of Jarius, was the ecstasy of Thossoth himself. The devil sex god screamed his passion. It was not every day that he himself felt the sexual agony of his father. Clemo knew he shouldn't pay attention to the scene, but how could he not? The very sight made him disgusted instead of satisfied, as he believed he would. Even Jarius shouldn't go through that, Clemo thought to himself. Hurry! I must hurry! Thossoth heard a small psychic voice in his chamber. His body was still writhing from the orgasm he continued to feel at the expense of Jarius. That wizard still lived, even as a woman continued to thrust in and out of his rectum. The pleasure was too great for this devil to distract himself with an intruder. Pointing his sword down from his position up high, Clemo held onto the ceiling by a groove that was part of the design. His body fluctuated as it became visible. His ring of invisibility was deactivated the moment he let go of the ceiling, allowing his body to hurl down towards Thossoth. Gripping the sword with both hands, he was not concerned with his body falling. Activating the unknown psychic power imbued by Jason, the sword glowed with that power. At the same time, Clemo focused his own psychic talent on ripping the space apart that Thossoth occupied. This caused the devil god Thossoth to be cut in half vertically and horizontally. A blast fired from the blade, shooting light, both green and blue, arcing like lightning, speeding to the foe with such force that it caused Clemo to fly up, halting his descent, remaining suspended in the air as long as that power left Fission. His muscles buckled as the teleporter found it difficult to hold on to the sword. He felt the strain causing his own arms to tear randomly across his skin. The power was too much, yet he refused to let go of his weapon and his friend. Psychic energy sparked from the blade, striking his head. This caused his hair to change from brown to white. Still, Clemo persisted in refusing to let go. For him, everything went black. Clemo opened his eye. Everything was sideways and silent. He heard nothing. It all felt fuzzy to the teleporter, who must have fallen, hitting the ground, and now was incoherent due to some kind of concussion. Half of his vision blurred and even turned red. Everything was on fire here. While it was hell, it was not a hell that utilized fire. The blast from Fission must have caused this. The woman that engaged in raping the one and only Jarius Kane must have ceased her activity before Clemo saw her fighting Jason. The world straightened as Clemo struggled to stand up. Blood fell from his face, dripping on the ground. Jason continued to fight that woman in the distance as Clemo staggered with his steps. He faintly heard Jason screaming his name, but due to the concussion, every sound was too distant and too dreamlike for Clemo to give any heed to. Opening his palms, Clemo summoned Fission in two form. I must. Clemo could not form the words as he staggered to the crawling body of Jarius. Blood continued to drip from his face, leaving a trail where he stood up to his current location in a zigzagging pattern. Clemo was unable to walk straight. Jarius struggled to lift his head. His legs failed to work as he himself left his own blood trail as he crawled. One look at Clemo's face told Jarius all he needed to know. The handless wizard had his body surrounded with psychic energy, which was too low to do anything. His words coughed out, failing to produce any arcane magic. Fission in two form was raised high with both hands just above Jarius. Clemo did not pause. He did not hesitate. He did not gloat, and most importantly, he did not falter in stepping down, passing through that weak psychic energy with no difficulty, and through the heart of the wizard Clemo hated above all others. His fatal expression was blank. He should have taken great pleasure in finally ending him, but his head wound made all of this as surreal as a dream. Jarius managed to mutter one word of magic. Clemo couldn't hear it. The moment was too blurry for him to notice anything. From under the dead Thossoth, and from inside of the soul of Jarius, was the mysterious power of 4 hellboxes. They lifted into the air, levitating slowly and circling around his own body. Jarius was already dead by the time these powers existed. His eyes showed no remaining life. Something dark flowed out of the dead wizard, creeping with a speed too quick for even a coherent Clemo to have noticed. The alien contents surged into an unaware Clemo. The teleporter fell to the ground uncaring. He allowed the sleep to overtake him without knowing if Jason could save him or not. End of Chapter 4.